Broadcasting live. It's America's longest running talk show on computers. It's Computer America, bringing you the biggest names in technology with guest interviews, new products, and your emails. Listen live at computeramerica.com on any device around the world. Email the show at live@computeramerica.com or find us on social media. Be sure to check out our website for contests, giveaways, show notes, live video stream, podcasts, and more. You're listening to Computer America.
Hello and welcome into the Computer America Show. We are the nation's longest running, nationally syndicated radio talk show on computers and technology. Almost forgot myself there, but I'm your host, Ben Crossman. Thank you for joining us, and we have a great show lineup for you today because, later on in the show, we're going to be doing computer and technology news, and that's where we go out and find the biggest news stories, and, we have a couple very, very interesting ones. Such as, we'll talk about the reason why Verizon decided to cut off 8,500 different customers simply for using their service too much. We'll see if they have a legitimate complaint about that. But, there's other things like Google Chrome, one of my favorite browsers. Actually my preferred browser, I should say. And, they're going to stop autoplay videos here at the beginning of next year. So those super annoying things, they're going to be a thing of the past if you use Chrome. I'm sure others will, eventually follow suit and do the same. But all that and more. And then, of course, later on in the show, we have things such as the contest. So our friends over at Logitech, we're going to give away a prize from them later on in the show. We're going to pick one lucky listener, read their name live on the air here, and hey, just like that, they can win a great prize. And let's see, computeramerica.com, I should mention that. If you want to check out any of the articles, maybe our guest website, because yes, today we do have Cherry on the program, and they make, a wide range of products, but mainly whenever they're here on Computer America, we like to talk about their keyboards because they make some of the best in the industry. It's just, hey, the average consumer hasn't really heard about them, but if you work in the medical field, if you work in any kind of business setting, I'm sure you have touched one of their products at some point. So happy to have them on. And if you want to link to their website, computeramerica.com, we have you covered. If you're busy, if you're distracted, don't worry. Just remember computeramerica.com. So, and just real quick, just for everyone out there, here at Computer America, we receive a lot of messages, and, we thank you all for them. But we also know that we get a fair amount of spam. And for all of you spammers out there who may be listening for some reason, let me tell you how I know that this particular comment I just received like a minute before the show is spam. It's because it's from, the email address looks fine, everything looks fine. Obviously they're trying to push, this weird, URL. But let me tell you this. The comment is, "Hello, happy I saw this on Bing. Thanks." And that's how we know that it's spam. Because they saw it on Bing. I've never heard that phrase in my entire life, and I work with computers. It's okay. So, anyways, so everyone out there, I just want to say that, and welcome into the Computer America Show. Why don't we get things just kicked off here, and really get them started? So, joining us today is once again Cherry. They've been on the show before. Happy to have them back on, and we are going to be talking to Mr. Michael Schmid, and he is the Senior Manager MX Marketing and PR for Cherry. So, Mike, thank you for joining us, and how you doing?
Hey, Ben, thanks for the opportunity. I'm doing good, sitting here over in Germany. It's about 10 o'clock in the evening, and I'm happy to be in your show today.
Yeah, that's that's something that's we often pick up on is that Cherry, and please, feel free to give us a bit more background on Cherry, but Cherry is a German company, and I guess German engineering, something to be very proud of, and it holds true at least for the keyboards, from what we've seen. So with that being said, please, give us a bit of a background on Cherry for those of us who have not heard of Cherry, and a bit of background on yourself. How did you become involved with Cherry?
So I don't know if you know that Cherry is one of the oldest IT companies that are still existing. So we have been founded in 1953, which is ages. So most of the listeners today won't be that old, including me. So I was not even born when the company was founded. But the funny thing is that Cherry is not a original German company. It was founded in the US in Illinois, and then moved to Germany in around 80s. They moved the headquarters from the US to Germany. And I'm involved with Cherry since about 3 years now. I was working for several IT companies, including AMD, so you might recognize that name.
Yeah.
And I'm now fully into keyboards and key switches. So I'm responsible for the whole marketing for the mechanical keyboards, like the MX-based, and the mechanical switches, which about 60 customers around the globe are using that, including Logitech, by the way.
Very, very, yeah. No, we hear about the switches. I mean, it's and by the way, just a fun fact. Next Monday, actually, so the show after today, but we're gonna have AMD on the show, talking with us. So,
Cool.
So funny coincidence. But no, you're absolutely right. I mean, if people haven't, maybe used, a Cherry branded keyboard, I have noticed that a lot of the mechanical keyboards out there, they do, kind of say that we use Cherry switches as our switches. Why is that such a selling point for so many other companies to say we use Cherry switches?
Yes. To be very honest, until 2009, the mechanical keyboard market was going really slightly down year after year. And in 2010, the gamers discovered the mechanical switches again. And they saw that these keyboards are much more reliable, and the computer game is getting more and more competitive. So the worst thing that can happen is when your keyboard breaks during a tournament. So they wanted to have a real reliable technology. So therefore they discovered the mechanical switches, and they have a lifetime you would never reach. So we have some customers that are using keyboards for 15 years now, and they're still working because switches are almost undestroyable. And that makes it so much better than a rubber dome or a scissor type keyboard.
Yeah, and that is, I think if most of you out there, if you are using any kind of standard laptop or any kind of keyboard that came with a pre-built PC, you're probably using a rubber dome kind of key. It doesn't make much of a sound when you strike the key. It's very kind of plasticky and rubbery when you kind of press down on it. I mean, it's night and day when you compare it to a mechanical keyboard. But you mentioned gamers there. Although Cherry for the longest time has been building products for not necessarily gamers, like I would say kind of the MX 6.0 and the MX 3.0. That was kind of at least our first introduction into a consumer facing kind of keyboard. I mean, what other markets are you kind of selling to? Gamers, of course. Any other markets really value Cherry?
Yes. So interestingly, most of the keyboards have been, or the original keyboards like the G80 3000, that was developed for heavy office users and industrial purposes because they needed a very reliable technology as well. And in China, we are much more known than for a gaming brand. So the Chinese people love that made in Germany stuff, and so the G80 3000, for instance, is still built in Germany. And the switches for sure. So everything, the Cherry switches coming from Auerbach, which I guess nobody will know. So I didn't know until I joined the company where that small village is. So actually every customer uses it that needs a real reliable keyboard. And if the surrounding, like in the industrial space, is not that friendly to a keyboard, they need a real reliable technology.
I got you. Yeah, and that's the last time that we had Cherry on, we were talking to a gentleman. I can go back and find his name, but yeah, he was on talking about the MX 6.0, kind of keyboard, and that's the one that I found it like because we get a lot of keyboards in for review, and it's a lot of fun finding out kind of what each one can do, but I find myself kind of gravitating back towards the 6.0. And by the way, folks, I have to tell you, if this is paid advertisement, it is not. And yeah, I just find myself really enjoying the fact that it doesn't break, and I do find myself typing better on these kinds of keyboards when it's harder to accidentally strike a key, it's, very, very very, very, kind of reflexive. The MX switches, I mean, is this something that the average person is going to notice? Because, obviously I sit down at a computer all day. Let's say, the average consumer out there goes out and gets, an MX switch keyboard. What are they going to kind of notice about these keys? Is it, what kind of experience is a mechanical keyboard versus something else?
Yeah, so it depends on what type of switch you are choosing. So, for instance, the rubber dome keyboard pretty much has a slight tactile feeling. So you feel a small bump when you hit the rubber dome, and you have to come over that point. What we have in mechanical switches, we have really the choice for the customers. So they can have a rubber dome similar feeling if they want to. They go for MX Brown, which is a tactile switch, or they want to have no tactile feeling at all, so no resistance during the switch. So they can choose between MX Red and an MX Black, which both are linear switches. The only difference there is the force. So the red's feeling a little bit lighter than the black ones. And there are some people that really like that click from the very, very old IBM buckling spring, and they go more for MX Blue. They are making a lot of noise, so they have that click sound. But some of the guys are really don't like mechanical keyboards because they're too loud for them. So there is a little bit of noise involved. So therefore, last year we introduced the silent switches, which have integrated rubber bumps on both sides. So they are very silent and they're really, not noticeable. Yeah. So you can play while your girlfriend is sleeping without any problem.
Yeah, that is, kind of the takeaway from a lot of people with mechanical keyboards is they go at it and they're so loud. It's, very, very, kind of distracting compared to, other kinds of keyboards. And that's actually why you're on the show today. It's because, we've been, toying around the office with the Cherry MX Silent. And yeah, I think it's a good time to kind of segue into that. And, obviously, we have our own impression. We're going to do an article right up here in a little bit. But can you tell us more about the product? Because, those little rubber nubs, I mean, I thought, and I'm not a keyboard expert at all, but I thought that the sound that a mechanical keyboard makes came from the resistance of, kind of the switches. Like the noise was from the switches itself, not like the key was striking the plastic. Or plastic, aluminum, metal, whatever the heck the keyboard's made out of. Did you change anything about the switch? Like if someone goes from a regular mechanical switch to one of your silent keyboards, are they going to notice a difference other than obviously the sound?
No, because really the goal was to reduce the noise, but don't change the feeling of the switch, because that's what makes a mechanical keyboard special, is people really choose their switch type and they really love the feeling. So our goal was really to reduce the noise, but don't change anything on the feeling. So you will just hear it, but you can't feel it.
Yeah, very, very important. And obviously, is that the most unique thing about the keyboard? Is just, the audio level of the keyboard?
Yes. So you have two parts of the keyboard. You have the mechanical switches and you have the electronics inside, right? So you saw both keyboards, the MX Board Silent and the MX Board 6.0.
Right.
They have totally different inside electronics. So the MX Board Silent is really like for the office space and for people that like it quiet. It's not particularly a gaming keyboard because the delay of the electronics is about 20 milliseconds. So you hit a key and the PC recognizes the signal 20 milliseconds later, right? The big difference is the MX Board 6.0 has a real key technology inside that removes that latency, right? And that keyboard has a signal processing time for about 1 millisecond, which makes a real big difference for a gamer because 20 milliseconds could make the difference between winning and losing.
Right. No, and that's something that, especially in the arena of esports, that seems to be a topic that we come up more and more against. It's extremely important. But like you said, I mean, with the silent, 20 milliseconds it sounds like compared to 1 millisecond, it's like, wow, that's going to be so long. But even at 20 milliseconds, that's not really enough for people to, kind of strike a key, go get a cup of coffee, and come back, and hopefully it pops up on the screen. I mean, 20 milliseconds is still pretty fast, right?
Yeah, but depends on your coffee machine. So
right.
I think we both have not a coffee machine that is fast enough. But look, the people are talking about milliseconds when it comes to monitors and screens. That they really want to have no latency when it comes to competitive gaming. For a casual gamer, I don't think it makes a big difference, right? So you might have a small advantage, but for the pro gamers, it really makes a big difference.
Right, absolutely. So, and you already mentioned the switches. For everyone out there, obviously Cherry makes a number of them. I remember off the top of my head, you already mentioned blue, you mentioned the reds, you mentioned the browns. What kind of switches does the Silent have?
So they're called Silent Black and Silent Red, but this kind of marketing language. So when you look at the switches at the stem color, and all the stems have different colors, then it looks like a little bit of pink and gray. That was a really big discussion internally, how we differentiate the switches, that the people, because most of the time they remove the keycap and look what's inside, and they know from the color which characteristic it is. So the challenge was really to have a kind of red that the people know, okay, this is the characteristic of a red switch. It is lightweighted, and there is no tactile feeling, so it's a linear switch, but not have the same color, because they have to actually see the difference, right? And therefore we call it Silent Red and Silent Black as a color.
Right, yeah, and anyone out there who is watching the video portion, we have the product image up where, it has kind of the expanded view, and you're right, it is kind of a pinkish red instead of the actual red. And, and that's something that is not to be overstated with mechanical keyboards, is that, when a keyboard does last you longer than 6 months, it does last you longer than a year, cleaning keyboards can, it's something that you should probably do decently often, because crumbs and grease and what have you gets in there. And when you have these rubber dome kind of keycaps, a lot of them, if you try to take them off, you break them off and you can't get them back on for anything. Mechanical keyboards, and just to be clear, Mike, they're kind of made to be taken apart, right? They're made to be taken off, cleaned, that kind of thing, for a long time.
Yeah, so that's one of the big advantages of mechanical keyboards. Really, you can take off all the keycaps, can clean them. Some people, I don't recommend it, but put them in the dishwasher, so the keycaps are cleaned as well.
I've never heard of that. And that's good.
Yeah, but the important thing is, if you want to clean a keyboard and remove the keycaps, please, guys, take a photo before you remove the keycaps. It's much more easy with the photo to put them back on the keyboard, instead of guessing which key was where, right?
Right.
So that's a really important hint.
No, it's and that's something I've ran into before, and I've had to, go online with my phone and try to find a product picture of the MX 6.0, and kind of look at the product photo and put it back together myself. Yeah. But hey, it's part of the learning experience. So, yeah, and we already discussed kind of the different, kind of the difference between the blue, the red, the brown, and the black switches. It's all about that tactile feel and kind of what you kind of expect from a key. But so how has the reception been for a silent keyboard? Because obviously for the gaming population, they're going to take it one way. They're going to say, oh wow, this is great, like you said, for close quarters living. Other fields such as offices, have they been asking for an option like this, and how's the reception been of a silent keyboard?
Yeah, so both have or lots of customers have asked for that from different fields. Like the office space, it's really if you are in, so if you want to drive your colleagues nuts at the office, you use an MX Blue, right? Because they will receive every single keystroke in their ear. And I tried it once when I started at Cherry, and after about 2 days, I removed that keyboard, going back to brown switches. So I still like the tactile feeling, but the noise was not acceptable for my colleagues. So I'm now using a silent keyboard, and I really love it because it's really, really quiet, even compared to the standard switches. And the gamers love it because often they're on TeamSpeak with different people, right? And if you have 4 people and typing really hard on the keyboard while they're gaming, you have a lot of background noise. So therefore, even the gamers love the silent ones because it makes the communication within the team much more easier.
Yeah, that is something that I've run into a number of times. You're sitting there, you're playing the games, and a lot of people have microphones that they kind of set to a certain threshold, and if that threshold breaks, then the microphone turns on. And if you're hammering away at your keys, sometimes that threshold can either break or it can stay open after you're done talking, and that's that. Like you said, that's a quick way to annoy colleagues, friends, family, and so on. So no, it's a very, very good point, and I had not considered that one. So, we have a question here about what to expect next, saying that, mechanical keyboards, I'll admit, being quieter was never really anything to me beyond, using a different kind of switch. What's next for you guys? Is it, even taking the silence a step further? Is it getting that 20 milliseconds down? I mean, yeah, what's kind of next for the mechanical keyboard?
Yeah, so we took already the 20 milliseconds down with the MX Board 6.0. So what we are about to launch, I think it will hit the US as well. And we launched it in Germany last month, is the MX Board 5.0, which has both features, right? We integrated silent switches and the high-speed technology, which gives you the reaction time of 1 millisecond. It's very ergonomic, so it has a real big wrist rest, and you can have it in 10 different positions, adjusted to your personal needs. So especially for the office use, where you have to type all day long, or even for the gamers that have to train a lot, we made that keyboard as ergonomic, as quiet, and as fast as possible.
Very, very nice. Although I will say, not to detract points from it, it's clearly something just for visuals, but not not LED lit. I mean, I know that a lot of keyboards are either backlit or individually key lit. You decided to forego the lighting on this, right?
So the MX Board 5.0 will have a white backlight with it, so which you can adjust to your personal preference.
I gotcha. But the silent, the one that we've been talking about, the let's see, the G83,000, that one does not have lighting. Just to let everyone know, correct?
Yeah, that's right. That has no backlighting, unfortunately.
Right. Yeah. But as you said, you've improved upon that with the MX 5.0. So not too bad. Not too bad. So what are the plans for the future? Because obviously, a company, 70 years in the making, you can't, you don't get 70 years old without thinking what comes next in the keyboard market. What are your plans for the future? I mean, 2018, right around the corner. Esports is, just as big and getting bigger year over year. Where do you see Cherry in 10 years? Where do you see Cherry next year?
Next year, I'm going to see Cherry at the CES and doing a big announcement. Which will be our really next step in switches, but I can't unfortunately talk about it in this show, just to give you a heads up. So this is clearly for next year, so we will be in January in Las Vegas, January 9th, we'll make the announcement there. And in 10 years, it's hard to guess. So we are discussing a lot of technologies that are around the corner, like, for instance, eye tracking, that could maybe replace the mouse at some point. It's so we tried in our offices. It's pretty cool technology. But for keyboards, I really don't see the keyboards going away the next 10 years because actually the speech recognition, I think it was launched back in the 90s already.
Right.
I don't know if you remember Dragon Naturally Speaking.
Of course.
Yeah, but I still don't see too many people speaking to a PC. So, and that was 20 years ago. So I think the keyboards will still be a long time with us. They might change a little bit. They're getting flatter. Like most of the people are really used to notebook keyboards, and so they want to have a similar, but maybe with mechanical feeling. So that's a trend I can see, that the keyboards are getting flatter and flatter, and but
Yeah.
it's hard to guess what's happened in 10 years.
Yeah, I mean, just a few things. The first one being that Computer America, we should probably start hyping this as well, is going to be out at CES covering all of that as well. So, hey, maybe we'll be able to see you out there and, hear it firsthand. That'd be very, very exciting. So, and also,
Sure.
yeah, and also, kind of speaking to where the keyboard's going to be in 10 years, that, you're right, difficult question because, but at the same time, it's not really because keyboards and mice, sure, they came around in the late 80s, early 90s, and that was 20 years ago. They still haven't been replaced. A good mouse and a good keyboard are still the input method of choice. And I know that you just said that you've been messing around with with kind of using your eyes to replace the mouse, but from a gaming perspective, from a casual user perspective, there's not a lot of demand to replace something that works so well and is so intuitive. So, like, as much as you're kind of obviously Cherry wants to be ahead of any kind of innovation, I think just making a good keyboard and a good mouse could carry you through 10 years. Honestly.
Yep. So let me ask you a question. When do you think Cherry built his first keyboard?
I would say, and I apologize because I was born in 1991, so obviously I'm shooting in the dark here, but I'm gonna say like the first keyboards probably came around. Well, I mean, heck, typewriters have been around forever, so I'm gonna go with late 70s, early 80s. I'm guessing.
Oh, you're pretty good. The first keyboard we built was built in 1973.
Not bad.
So, yeah, so you're pretty good. And
Yeah.
so keyboards are around for more than 40 years now.
Yeah.
I think we will be the next 10 years as well.
Yeah, and that's just what I think. Obviously speculation. It's a lot of fun, but something that's been working for 40 years, and we've kind of grown to, because like you said, we've had Dragon on the show. Their technology is coming along nicely. We've seen different kinds of keyboards with like the swipe keys and things like that. But nothing is really replacing in droves, the idea that you don't need a good keyboard. The only thing that might be changing is like in the past 5, 6, 7, 8 years, again, with the resurgence of mechanical keyboards, the idea that your keyboard should last longer than the computer that you're using it on. It's, keyboards should not be disposable throwaways after 6 months. So, again, a good thing definitely to see. So obviously, we mentioned CES. Can't wait to see you guys out there. And yeah, let's bring it back down to a personal level. I mean, anything exciting happening this weekend?
Yes, we have. So I'm living in a countryside in Germany. I don't know if it's similar in the US. So we have small parties in every village every weekend, basically. So we're visiting each other, and so there's a big party in the neighbor village, which I'm gonna join tomorrow evening. And I think it's because I'm born in 1975, I have to relax on Sunday after that. So you need a day for rest.
And in America, that's not really a thing lately. I mean, I don't know if it's computers. I don't know if it's just my age group, but hang out with friends on a Friday night, but actual neighborhood block parties, doesn't really happen. So that sounds exciting. Sounds like a lot of fun. And I want to thank you for giving up your Friday night to join us here on Computer America. And yeah, I'll leave the last word with you. If people want to find out more, or if you want to say anything else to the audience, where can they go? And do you have anything else to add?
Yeah. So if I can do a little bit of advertising, in May we launched a new website, cherrymx in one word .de.
Mm-hmm.
It's also available in English, where we described all the different switch types and give the people a little bit direction, because the hard thing is for the people to actually guess which switch is the right one for them. So check out that website, and if you have questions, leave us a comment on Facebook. And if you want to try it, go to a retail store or even go to your friends, invite them. Most of them have mechanical keyboards, and then just get the conversation on.
All right, perfect. And of course, we'll include a link in the show notes to cherrymx.de. You know, a lot of browsers have that translation feature, but hey, you know, it's like you said, it's available in English as well. You know, kind of natively. You see right there. So everyone, you know, thank you. I want to thank you so much, Mike, for joining us. Everyone, Cherry.
Thank you, Ben.
Yeah, thank you so much. Have a great day.
You too.
All right, bye-bye.
We are all Brother Wolf. 10 years ago, a group of locals banded together to create positive change. We took animals into our homes, held adoption events at local retailers, and talked to the community about our mission to help build a no-kill Asheville. A decade later, we have achieved so many victories for animals in need. There's been so much progress, yet there's still so much to do. As part of our year-long celebration, we encourage you to become a member of our special Compassionate Circle program. With a monthly donation of $10 or more, you will have behind-the-scenes access to the work we are doing at Brother Wolf. Our goal is to reach 1,000 members because we receive no government funding. Working together, we can help build and sustain no-kill communities. Learn more at compassionatecircle.bwar.org. We are a 501c3 tax-deductible organization.
And welcome back to the Computer America Show. It is 31 minutes past the hour as we continue on here. Just finished up with Cherry. And that's right, Cherry keyboards. Again, we've had them on the show about this time last year. And we are, of course, just finished talking to them about their new silent keyboard. You know, so if your main concern with keyboards has always been, you know, your main concern with mechanical keyboards has been that they're too loud, too noisy, you know, too clickety-clackety, you know, what have you, then hey, this may be an option for you. And like I said, we've had one in the office, and we're going to be writing, obviously, a review here in, you know, hey, the next couple of days for sure. So everyone out there, thank you for joining us once again, Computer America, as we head into computer and technology news. But before we get into that, we have a word from one of our sponsors. And this is for ZipRecruiter. And they want to ask, are you hiring? And do you know where to post your job to find the best candidates? And hey, you know, it's not always easy to find the right person for the right spot with the right credentials. You know, it's a headache because there's a lot of different people out there with a lot of different skills and a lot of different talents. So, hey, why not get a little bit of help? And that's where ZipRecruiter. So with ZipRecruiter, you can post your job to over 100 plus job sites with a single click. Then their powerful technology efficiently matches the right people to your job better than anyone else. And that's why ZipRecruiter is different, where unlike other job sites, ZipRecruiter doesn't depend on candidates finding you, it finds them. And in fact, 80% of employers who post a job on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate through the site within 1 day. Just 24 hours. Not too shabby. So, no juggling emails or calls to your office. Simply screen, rate, and manage the candidates all in one place with ZipRecruiter's easy-to-use dashboard. Kind of like a game, but you know, at the end of it, you get a really, really good employee. So, for our listeners, find out today why ZipRecruiter has been used by businesses of all sizes to find the most qualified job candidates with immediate results. And right now, our listeners can post their jobs on ZipRecruiter for free. And all you have to do, remember this, ZipRecruiter.com/computer. ZipRecruiter.com/computer. And hey, it may just be the thing you need to finally find that perfect candidate for your opening. Everyone, one last time, ZipRecruiter.com/computer. Check it out. And hey, say thanks to Computer America when you find that perfect someone. All right. So with that being said, why don't we go on and head on into computer and technology news? That's, of course, brought to you by FireDragon Security. So here we go. All right, and we have a number of articles, and I think we're going to start off with this one, and then we'll lead off into that one. All right, so the first article that we're going to do here, and it's man, and there's a lot of not very good looking stories here for a lot of companies, but they're important because, hey, that's how companies learn and they grow, is they make mistakes and then they worry about it later. So this article, by the way, many of today's articles can be found in the show notes, computeramerica.com. Oh, my goodness, I almost forgot. And after this story, we're going to go ahead and announce this week's winner of the Computer America contest. So here we go. And let's just call this one. Okay, all right. So this one's from Ars Technica. And 8,500 Verizon customers get disconnected because of substantial data use. Right. Saying that roaming data use makes customers unprofitable. So Verizon will cut them off. And yeah, let's try to get to as much of this article as we can because, hey, it's a pretty long article. But my knee-jerk reaction is this is why you can't trust Verizon, Time Warner, AT&T, Charter, Cox, pick any of them. This is why you can't trust these private internet firms to bring a utility. And don't mix words here. The internet is as much a utility as water is at this point. For a lot of people, for their jobs, for their livelihood, that's entrusting it to private organizations that have to make the call between profits and, serving, these customers. They're probably going to err on the side of what makes their shareholders happier. And in this case, well, it's turning off the connectivity for 8,500 rural customers. So here we go. This is from Ars Technica, Mr. John Brodkin, saying that Verizon is disconnecting another 8,500 rural customers from its wireless network, saying that roaming charges have made certain customers' accounts unprofitable for the carrier. So they said that the 8,500 customers have 19,000 lines and live in 13 states. And spoiler alert, yeah, it's some pretty sparsely populated states. Take, for instance, Alaska, Idaho, Iowa, Kentucky, things like that. So they said that they received notices of disconnection this month and will lose access to Verizon next month. And here we have it, saying that these customers live outside of areas where Verizon operates our own network, saying that many of the affected consumer lines use a substantial amount of data while roaming on other providers' networks, and the roaming costs generated by these lines exceed what these consumers pay us each month. So, one obvious option. Well, let's just continue before we start drawing conclusions. So Verizon also said that we sent these notices in advance so customers have plenty of time to choose another wireless provider. And obviously, they had another article about a wave of disconnections in June where the affected customers are supported by Verizon's LTE in Rural America program, which relies on a partnership between Verizon and small rural carriers who lease Verizon spectrum in order to build their own networks. So obviously, again, this is about the bottom line. This is about profits and a lack thereof. So, hey, in an industry as cutthroat as, providing internet, hey, it's when you're trying to drive price down through competition, although in a lot of places there's lack thereof, you take every opportunity you can to seize on some kind of cost saving. So here we go, saying that one customer says the family only used 50 gigabytes across 4 lines. I can't even imagine how you do that. I've just thinking about my personal, and obviously for business, but my, just personally, I've used 50 gigs in like a week. And they're saying that, in 1 month, across 4 different lines, they use 50 gigs. That's not really that much. But obviously, roaming is something else. And so Verizon said in June that it was only disconnecting a small group of customers who were using vast amounts of data, some as much as a terabyte or more a month, outside of our network footprint. So a terabyte, decent amount, not unheard of, not impossible to reach through normal means, but hey, that is probably on the higher end of the scale. But one customer, obviously, said that they had the unlimited plan through Verizon Wireless and only used 50 gigs of data across 4 lines. Not too bad. And now they're saying they are left with very few choices, none of them with good service. Saying that I guess small town America means nothing to these people. It's okay, though I live in a small town, I know a lot of people, and I'm telling every one of them to steer clear of Verizon. That's completely his right. Obviously, that kind of blowback was, factored into this decision through Verizon, and I'm sure Verizon is willing to take the hit to their reputation because, again, it probably just doesn't mean much money for them. So, with that being said, they said that the company did not provide a specific answer when Ars Technica asked if 50 gigs a month is a normal cutoff, saying that many current customers in these areas have lines which do not rack up roaming charges that are higher than what they pay us. People who live within the area where Verizon operates its own network are not impacted. So what it's saying there is, as long as they're making money off of you, you're fine. And as long as you're in their provider network, you're fine. But if you're outside and you are costing them any kind of money, they will shut you down. There you have it. So, and, again, this is a decently long article. You can read more, but let's just go ahead and skip on over. Saying that, getting into the last section, saying that these small carriers are planning on holding Verizon accountable for what they've done. Saying that it appears that Verizon induced these companies to build out the rural area, to build out in the rural areas around the country, and then significantly promoted it by saying that they're covering the rural areas. But now that they're cutting the program back, a wireless partner's spokesperson said that the small company plans to exhaust every effort to cause Verizon Wireless to rethink this decision and to honor the promise of the LRA program, under which the network was constructed. So it sounds like Verizon, instead of themselves building out these rural networks, they were essentially giving grants to companies and to organizations to build it out themselves, trying to farm it out to a lot of different little companies so that, hey, it doesn't look bad on, on their sheets. They can just say, blah, blah, blah. But now that it's been built out and now that it's been costing them money, because this was probably never going to be a moneymaker. This was simply something that Verizon and Charter and anyone else who provides wireless service, Sprint, they have to cover rural America. That's part of the deal for all the protections that they kind of enjoy being a cell phone provider. And instead of honoring, that kind of agreement, they've been cutting back after they built it out, saying it just costs too much money. And that's not good. So Hobbins plans to meet with the Maine Attorney General, Janet Mills, to determine how the state should respond. And again, I say Maine as in, the state, Maine. So, let's, of course, wrap this up by saying that customers have no recourse if they don't port their numbers to another service provider by the termination date. Their number will be disconnected and lost for good. The only good news, Verizon wants to disconnect customers so badly that they're willing to forgive their remaining owed balances for any device financed through Verizon. So keep your phone, but get off my network, is essentially what they're saying. So Yep, that was again rather lengthy. Doesn't look good for Verizon, but you can see why they did it. There you have it. All right, so before we go any further, why don't we do something a little fun before we jump into the next one? Because it's just as, I don't know, heady. So let's go ahead and pick one of our winners for our contest. And this week's winner is... That out. Called showmanship, folks. All right, this week's winner is... Here we go. Juanita May. Check that out. Followed Computer America on twitch.tv. That's right, Computer America has a twitch.tv. And Juanita May listens to us in Mayfield, Kentucky. So, Juanita, thank you so much for listening. Thank you for checking out Computer America. And we'll contact you shortly after the program to get your prize out to you. And hey, everyone, thanks for listening to Computer America. Even if your name is not Juanita, hey, you know, maybe next week it could be. Or something along those lines. But, you know, hey, it's going to be a lot of fun. And, yeah, be sure to check it out when you can. All right. So, everyone, now with our contest out of the way. And by the way, if you want to enter the contest, computeramerica.com, over on the right, Gleam is the service that we use. It's very, very cool. And there's like 10 different ways to enter. Check them all out, computeramerica.com. All right. Now, like I said, this next story, it's a bit unsavory for some, but it just goes to show how advertising companies, and, you know, I don't want to lay this completely at the feet of Facebook because, you know, there's another article that we're not going to get into because it's so similar, but it's essentially saying that Google accidentally did the same thing. And it's just a way to reach an audience that probably shouldn't have a voice or even have a way to reach them. So Facebook is temporarily removing the ad targeting option that let marketers reach quote unquote Jew haters. Yeah, little bit of anti-Semitism there. By a little bit, I mean blatant. And yeah, this is something that Facebook, you know, had to kind of say, hey, we're sorry that we did this. And by the way, everyone, this is from Recode and Mr. Kurt Wagner saying that Facebook is temporarily removing some of its ad targeting options in the wake of reports that the site was being used to target people based on categories like the KKK and Jew hater. Yeah, don't do that. So, reports surfaced Thursday that Facebook's ad targeting algorithm was surfacing these inappropriate categories to advertisers, and that the problem is that Facebook allows advertisers to target people based on self-reported categories like the field of study, school, job title, or company. And when users put in, obviously, the slur, as their field of study, for example, that label was then appearing to advertisers as a legitimate way to target people with ads. So, Facebook says that it wants to fix that targeting process, but in the meantime, it will eliminate the ability to target users based on these categories while it figures out what to do next. The obvious thing that, you know, that's been happening with Facebook and Google and other tech companies, they've been taking a pretty, you know, hardline, vocal stance against any kind of discrimination, racism, things like that. So, you know, expect Facebook to come down pretty hard. But, you know, this is not strictly Facebook's fault. This is a certain subset of people who are using or abusing the system as it is. So, you know, just like anything else, it's a tool, not made good, not made bad, not made racist, not made, you know, in any particular kind of political direction. It's just a tool that inadvertently was surfacing bad information simply because people were inputting information that was equally as offensive or wrong. I don't even want to lay this completely at Facebook's feet. Obviously, they're going to fix it, and I think any kind of response is appropriate. But, Facebook didn't twist anyone's arm into targeting these kinds of groups. So to help, and they have a quote here from a blog post from Facebook saying that to help ensure that that targeting is not used for discriminatory purposes, we are removing these self-reported targeting fields until we have the right processes in place to help prevent this issue. Saying that we want Facebook to be a safe place for people and businesses, and will continue to do everything we can to keep hate off of Facebook. And of course, this is not the first time that one of Facebook's software algorithms has been abused in the past year, saying that the newsfeed algorithm, which determines what people see and don't see in their feed, was gamed to help spread misinformation ahead of the last US election. Again, not getting political here, but that is a fact. Propaganda was easily spread through Facebook using these ads because, again, Facebook didn't see it as their responsibility to determine what was lies, what was slander, what was misinformation. Facebook was simply providing the tools that anyone could use in any way that they saw fit. So, yeah, gamed is a good word. And more recently, it was discovered that the inauthentic accounts from Russia bought about $100,000 worth of political ads during the election cycle. Yeah. So things like this happen. Things like this will probably continue to happen as long as they have a system, as long as it's in any way identifiable, because, I'm not saying that they should go behind closed doors and hide how their algorithms kind of sort everything. But it's just a truth, and they're going to have to kind of play whack-a-mole with this as long as it keeps popping up. So, at any rate, there you have it. Facebook in hot water again, but I'll be honest, not necessarily their fault. All right, so why don't we do something a little bit happier and then something a little bit sad if we have time. So, by happy, I mean this one, and everyone should be super excited about this, at least if you are using Google Chrome. And yeah, so like I mentioned, Google Chrome will no longer autoplay content with sound in January 2018. It's exciting. Because how annoying can it be when you drop on a page and it's just blaring music at you, and heaven forbid you accidentally left your device hooked up to, an in-home speaker system, and then your entire house is vibrating from this stupid news report that's just playing in the background. Yeah, it can be really annoying. So Chrome will break that script, saying that Google, and by the way, this is coming to us from VentureBeat, Mr. Emil Protolinsky. Hopefully I said that right. And Google today announced that Chrome is going to war with autoplay. We're starting next year, Chrome will only autoplay a given piece of content when the media won't play sound or the user has indicated an interest in the media. So obviously there's a way to whitelist this kind of content, but for 99% of us, having it opt out is going to be super effective. So they're saying that not all users have the same preference for autoplay media. So Google has looked at letting users mute and unmute entire websites. And we first heard about the company was experimenting with such an option last month, and now this is part of the browser's roadmap. And let's see. Yeah, so and they give the roadmap here, and they say that by January 2018, Google Chrome 64, update 64, will be live, and it will stop autoplay content, or at least any autoplay content that plays sound. Obviously, there will still be autoplay videos and the like, but it will strictly be for those who, it will strictly be for those who play audio along with the video. And the company justifies the new approach by saying that while autoplay can make it faster and easier to consume the web, unexpected media playback is one of the most frequent user concerns because it can use data, consume power, and make unwanted noise while browsing. And a side benefit, Google argues, is that these changes will also unify desktop and mobile web behavior, making web media development more predictable across platforms. Because this was already a feature with mobile, especially mobile, where, let's face it, in some cases you are tethered, not tethered, but you are limited in the amount of data that you can actually consume. And you don't want that data that is autoplay media counting directly towards your data limit. It can be very troublesome. So there you have it. Not much more to say about that. And we have time to get our last article that I really wanted to get in here. And this is for all of you space lovers out there. Cassini. You may have heard of that name before. Well, it just made its final descent into Saturn. That's right. So bittersweet, but it did a fantastic job, and it sent back some amazing photos. Where if you're watching the video portion, we have a couple up here, and again, they're some of the best photos we have of Saturn. And yeah, so this is coming from Ars Technica, saying that the Cassini spacecraft, after spending 13 nearly flawless years revealing a complex ring gas giant, along with extensive array of moons, there we go, and finding 2 worlds capable of supporting life, died on Friday morning. So yeah, just this morning. Saying that it had expired after setting its engines on full thrust and flying directly into the maw of Saturn. Saying that it was 19 years old. My goodness, I might cry. But the spacecraft made its final significant maneuver on Monday, flying near enough to Saturn's largest moon Titan to nudge Cassini into a collision course with the planet. Saying that Cassini took its final image on Thursday and on Friday morning began accelerating more than 140,000 kilometers an hour. Of course, there's no return from that. And that Cassini had to die this way, saying that its fuel reserves were nearly gone, and scientists didn't want to take a chance that, however improbable, some life from Earth had survived on board the spacecraft for 20 years might one day contaminate one of the planet's moons. So they couldn't just like land it on a moon and let it do its thing because, hey, you don't know if there was something, contagious on the satellite. So early Friday, Cassini began flying deeper into Saturn's atmosphere. Molecules from the planets struck the spacecraft and it began to heat up. And get this, at about 1,500 kilometers above the planet's cloud tops, Cassini began to tumble, falling. And NASA scientists at the Jet Propulsion Laboratory lost contact with the spacecraft at 7:55 Eastern. It was burning and soon would break apart, becoming part of the gas giant it was so closely studying for so long. And yeah, this article, it has a great outline of different discoveries it's made and work it's done and lots of photos that it's taken. Check them all out, but it's kind of cool knowing that, a science project essentially from 1997 has just finished. And hey, it was very, very cool to see what happened. So to Cassini, to Cherry for joining us here on today's show, to all of you out there listening to Computer America, I want to say thank you, and I want to say join us next week, Monday through Friday, 4 p.m. to 5 p.m. Eastern, where we have a full week of shows. And yes, if we play our cards right, we have everything from our all Linux show with Marcel Gagne to AMD and more here on Computer America. Check it out. Always find the latest at computeramerica.com, and be sure to check out the podcast version of the show as well as the video portion of the show. So until next time, everyone, have a great day. See you next time. Bye-bye.